What is up, fam? Thank you so much for joining in. We got some more breaking news with the 49ers. Went out day 2 and made a little bit of an under the radar signing. Linebacker from the Green Bay Packers, Oren Burks. So I thought we'd talk about it. And honestly, even though it isn't like a splash signing, to say the least, we're talking about a 2-year, $5 million deal, $2.5 million. There are some things that are intriguing about Burks, and I actually like it. I think it's smart. So one thing that I have to say about the 49ers is I feel like they're starting to understand what they're good at and starting to play into that a little bit more. So one thing that they're extremely good at is development of linebackers. You've seen that with obviously Fred Warner being one of the best middle linebackers and just linebackers overall in the league. Dre Greenlaw, another person that was drafted in the 3rd round or maybe even lower, ends up being a guy who plays an impactful role with the 49ers as well. And then this last year when Dre Greenlaw went down, drafted free agent in Azeez Al-Shaair comes out of nowhere and turns into a really productive linebacker for the 49ers. So a guy like Oren Burke, I think, can fit in that mold. And I'm going to tell you a little bit why. But let me get to this. Kali Young, my brother, thank you so much for joining in. Everything's good, baby. Love talking 49ers. Thank you so much for joining in. So let's talk about Oren Burke, all right? So Oren Burke was drafted 2018. Guess who else was drafted 2018? Fred Warner. Fred Warner drafted in the 3rd round. Oren Burke drafted in the 3rd round. Actually, 18 spots behind Fred Warner. Fred Warner was a safety in college, ended up playing linebacker. Oren Burks, safety in college, ended up playing, linebacker. Both are extremely athletic. I think Burke ran a 4.59 40, which is extremely fast for a linebacker, and was known for his coverage skills. So obviously with Green Bay, he didn't play too much as a starter. He only started when the linebacking core there was more injured. He played mainly special teams, and I ideally think he'll be more of a special teamer with the 49ers as well. But if you look at what the 49ers are capable of doing with guys with this similar type of skill set as far as athleticism, vision, and ability to drop into coverage, a guy like D'Amico Ryans can utilize this guy. And maybe in a couple years, we're looking at a guy like Burks that maybe makes another linebacker expendable or turns into an asset that the 49ers can actually trade and flip for more assets down the line. So I really like this pickup. Not a lot of money, but still gives the 49ers some flexibility at a position of need, which is obviously covering kicks, which the 49ers weren't very good at last year, but also can be somebody that can develop into a linebacker that maybe in a couple years can play a meaningful role even on defense. The second thing is, I think this signals that we're more than likely going to be losing one of the 2 linebackers that we are so high on behind Fred Warner. And that's either Dre Greenlaw and Azeez Al-Shaair. I do believe, if I am going to make an educated guess, more than likely Dre Greenlaw is going to be the one that does get traded for an asset, because I do believe he will be more expensive than Azeez. I believe they'll probably put a tender on Azeez and work out some way to bring him back on a team-friendly type deal. However, Dre Greenlaw, on the other hand, is just somebody who I think has a lot of people looking at him and somebody who can get, more money maybe elsewhere. I think he is in the last year of his deal, so might as well trade him, get some assets for him right now rather than him just walking in free agency, which is more than likely what would happen next season anyway. So bringing in a guy like Oren Burke, I think, his deal is $2.5 million a year. You trade Greenlaw, you also save $2.5 million. So kind of like evening out the money right there. Makes a lot of sense. So overall, obviously not a big splash. I don't expect Oren to come in and be a starter on defense or make a big impact as far as just defense, but special teams, we'll probably hear his name a few times. And like I said, the 49ers are extremely good at developing these type of caliber of players, especially at linebacker. So keep an eye on him. Maybe in a couple years, he is somebody who might show some flashes, just like we've seen out of a Dre Greenlaw and Azeez Al-Shaair. The second big piece of news is we did tender Daniel Brunskill, right? So I think his tender was 2.4 and some change $1 million. I think this is just something to be expected. Obviously, Laken Tomlinson has walked in free agency, getting a big deal from the Jets. Daniel Brunskill was a full-time starter last year. A lot of us have things that we want to say about his ability. Obviously he didn't look strong all the time, other than playing against Aaron Donald, right? But this is something that I think the 49ers have to do. You're talking about $2.4 million for a guy who was a full-time starter on the team last year. I think that's a really good deal. Even though Brunskill maybe isn't somebody who we want to see start full-time, he is somebody that's an asset for the team that can be a starter if we need him. I would like to have him more come off the bench and be more in spot duty as like a swing tackle or just fill in when somebody else is injured. But at 2.46 million, I believe if he does come back, or that's a great deal. You're not paying too much for a guy who definitely is probably going to outproduce that salary, especially if he's a starter again. JR Meadows, thank you for joining in. Probably Dre, I agree with you. I think Dre is probably the guy to go. Not only would he be the most appealing to other teams, but obviously with that, we probably could get the most assets for him as well. Going into the rest of free agency, what do we expect? I mean, tomorrow could be a very big day. Obviously, the 49ers do have to get underneath the cap. I think the time is like 1 Eastern. So they have some moves to make. I expect Arik Armstead to get restructured or extended, Jimmy Ward to get extended, probably Samson Ebukam to get extended. And I believe they should extend Mosley as well to get underneath the cap. Obviously, some big news coming out with the guy over at Baker Mayfield with Cleveland putting out the letter to the fans. Absolutely, Spartans. Looks like Baker wants out of Cleveland. Maybe good news for the 49ers. I do agree with that because, look, I don't know if Baker wants out of Cleveland or Cleveland wants out of Baker, but it does look like, this last conversation with Deshaun, the Cleveland actually meeting with Deshaun, did affect Baker in a way where he, kind of said a goodbye letter, or at least, sees the writing on the wall. If there is some way of a trade where Cleveland does give Baker away to one of these teams that does need a quarterback, I could definitely see Jimmy being a good fit for Cleveland. This is something that I said a while ago, actually, is I thought that Jimmy Garoppolo would be perfect for the Cleveland Browns. And my thought process towards it, and you guys could chime in the comment section if you agree with me. One, Kevin Stefanski came from the Minnesota Vikings. The quarterback that he had over there was obviously Kirk Cousins. And Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins are very similar quarterbacks when it comes to their ceiling and, what they're capable of doing. I think Kirk Cousins throws the deep ball a little bit better, but Jimmy Garoppolo, has a quicker release and is better with that short yardage throws. The Cleveland Browns are a run-first team. They have a very strong running game, which Jimmy Garoppolo does need to be able to be successful. He's good at the play action pass. And the other thing is Cleveland has a very strong defense. So if you look at the components of how the 49ers were very successful with Jimmy Garoppolo, strong running game, extremely good defense, those are the same components that Cleveland has. Kevin Stefanski already has had success with the quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins. It just seemed like it would be a good fit. I just didn't know if they were going to get off of Baker Mayfield because they gave him that 5th year. So now it's looking more and more likely that they may. So maybe that brings up another another potential destination for Cleveland for Jimmy in Cleveland. But another thing to pay attention to is where does Deshaun Watson go? I am hoping he actually ends up with the Atlanta Falcons because now we have Indy, Carolina, and New Orleans that are all looking for a veteran quarterback. Gives more opportunity for Jimmy. Start that bidding war a little bit and get some assets. But I truly hope that, the 49ers can find somebody who takes that whole contract off of the books, because that $25 million is going to be imperative for the 49ers to be able to be big players. I still have a lot of hope that they're going to bring in some kind of splash. I'm throwing it out in the atmosphere. Chandler Jones. Hopefully the 49ers can bring him in, which I think would help this defense out immensely and give them a real chance to be a top 5 defense, if not even better, this next season. So still a lot of exciting news. Like I said, players being brought in. Tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of restructuring, extensions, and hopefully, some other names that we want to come in and fill out some roles on the team. Like I said, man, it's fun to be a 49er fan right now. Get excited. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like the video, share. Appreciate you guys joining in. And we'll talk again very, very soon. Keep it locked on to So Real Sports Talk for all the breaking news. We'll get back with you guys tomorrow. Got a show with Rohan Chakravarti at around 6 o'clock Pacific. And then any breaking news around this time, we'll go live again, guys. So appreciate you guys joining in. Have a great night. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. And we'll talk again very, very soon.